Hi everyone, hello, welcome to Enter the BPS. If you're here for the other BPS, that's Boris's party of swindlers, you're in the wrong room. So get out now, go on, sling your hook, get out, out. Hello, hello. I know, I've got glasses and I'm black, but I'm not Wayne Reid. We don't all look the same. I'm Claudia Crawley. I'm from Winning Pathway Coaching, and I'm here to make the next couple of hours sparkle. Now, folks, I'd like you to go to the reaction icon, which I hope you can find at the top of your screen, and just give me a thumbs up if you've had a good journey from your sofa to your laptop. Go on, give me a thumbs up. You can find it. Yeah, I see raised hands. Not many thumbs up, but some raised hands. I'll take that. I'll take the raised hands. Any more? You've had a good journey. I would have had a good journey if I hadn't tripped over the cat, but there you go. So, what's the BPS? Well, it was launched in August 2020 by BASW England, and it stands for the Black and Ethnic Minority Professionals Symposium. The coordinator is Wayne Reid. Remember him? Professional officer, anti-racist visionary, and natty dreadman. Let's hear it for Wayne, yay! You know what I love about Wayne? What I absolutely love about him, apart from his dreads, of course, he's a proud, out-and-out socialist. But you better be careful, Wayne. I mean, look what he did to Jeremy Corbyn. Cheers, comrade. Now, the BPS is a forum for BASW members. It's chaired by gutsy Pauline Sargent and vice-chaired by the energetic Sharrel Francis. You'll hear more from these two women during the presentations. And it provides space for members to share their social work knowledge, expertise, skills and experiences. It also offers opportunity to support other Black and ethnic minority social workers at different stages in their careers. In other words, it's all about empowering and skilling up members and non-members, and also bringing about change to social work policy and practice that will benefit both clients and workers. I don't know whose idea it was. Was it yours, Wayne? Well, it's cool. It's really cool. So what's today's event all about? Well, the promotion material said it's about showcasing the knowledge, skills and expertise of BPS members. But we all know that showcasing is just another word for showing off, innit? I mean, something my own parents brought me up never to be, never to do, never to show off. Whose parents, if you're from the Caribbean, whose parents used to say to them, "You're too pappy sure"? That's what my parents used to say to me. Now today is all about members bigging themselves up, and why not? We all need a bit of bigging up sometimes, don't we? And if we can't do it here, we won't be doing it so easily out there, will we, in the outside world? So today, you're going to get to learn about the background of BPS members, their reasons for joining the group, their achievements, and believe me, those have been immense. You'll hear all about that later. And the event is aimed at ambitious Black and ethnic minority social work professionals, students, and colleagues from allied professions too. Because we want to inspire and give you tips and insight into what you can achieve. Now, the event title, Enter the BPS, is supposed to be a nod to the first Wu-Tang Clan album. Wu-Tang Clan? Wu-Tang Clan. Never heard of them. Never. When Wayne first told me this, I thought he was talking about the COVID-19 creators. You know, the Wuhan Clan. Oh dear, they aren't all as bad as that, I promise. I promise. So how are you all doing? Are you good? Yeah? Couldn't give a damn. Let's talk about my favourite topic, me. Now, you're probably wondering who the hell's Claudia Crawley. I frequently do that, I know. Well, I arrived from Jamaica, age 4, knowing nothing about fog, drizzle, or racism. But I do now. People say I'm a bit of a contradiction. And that's because I've got a degree in politics and a season's ticket to Millwall. I'm also a founder member of the Women's Equality Party, and I absolutely adore Harry Styles. Oh, Harry Styles. And I'm almost deaf, but I can hear you when I think you're worth the effort. And my bad ear is this one. It's completely blocked, it's pig-headed, and it creates chaos. That's my Brexit ear. And this one, it operates brilliantly when it's plugged with a high-tech gadget. That's my Pioneer. But you know what? I'm not complaining. In fact, I'm really grateful because I found that 95% of things people say are better not heard anyway. Now, my professional career started in probation when I joined the Inner London Probation Service. I was one of only 5 black probation officers. There were just 5 of us, imagine. I mean, it's nothing like that these days, is it? There's loads of black and Asian people. They're operating in the field of crime, aren't they? And I became a team manager quite quickly. That's because I preferred bossing people around. And in my 8th year in service, I decided to break off the shackles of the probation officer's identity, and I travelled alone for an adventure in Brazil. It was a year of teaching English, learning Portuguese, and trying to samba in Rio. I was pretty successful with the first 2, but now I'm on a par with Anne Widdecombe's samba on Strictly. Don't know if you ever saw that. It wasn't worth watching. And when I returned to the UK and probation, I joined Family Court Welfare, and I moved to Kafkas in 2001. In 2010, I got made redundant from my knowledge and professional development post, and then I set up my own business, Winning Pathways Coaching. On top of all of that, I've got around about 25 plus years experience of anti-racist activism, which included delivering training to white staff and running support groups for black and Asian workers. And now I lead the Women's Equality Party's Race Equality Allies group. I'm aiming to change the world one white person at a time. I used to live in Southeast London, but recently I managed to escape to the country. Now, country life, if you've never lived there, it's peaceful, it's calm, and it's very, very white. When I spotted another black woman, a total stranger, never met her before, on the local street, she threw her arms around me. So much for COVID-19. Desperation can be a real killer, can't it? Now, we're now both on a mission to decolonise the Leicestershire countryside. And as an author, I'm just finishing my 4th book. It's called Undeterred, The Success Equation of Women of Black and Asian Heritage. It's out in the autumn, so look out for it. You know, I am so glad that BPS didn't call itself BAME, because BAME is one of my most hated terms. I hate it with a vengeance. Raise your hand if you hate being called BAME too. It stands for those of us who don't know, Black, Asian and minority ethnic. In other words, it's all those, anyone on the Starbucks coffee menu, from espresso to Jamaican skinny foreplay. Well, stuff minority ethnic, because white people are only about 10% of the planet, which makes the rest of us the remaining 90%. Now, if I were a white supremacist, I would be really worried, like really, really worried. I'd be bricking it. And the name BAME is totally ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, imagine being so unwilling to understand other people that you find it easier to assume everyone from Africa and Asia, the two biggest continents, fit in the same box. I reckon it's a name that was thought up by white, binary thinking government officials. You know, the sort of people who as kids separated their toys into herbivores and not dinosaurs. It's a bit like saying footballers are all the same. Well, we know that's not true, don't we? There's Cristiano Ronaldo, Portuguese, Lionel Messi, Argentinian, Robbie Savage, flaming thug. I mean, you only really notice how ridiculous the term is when you try and create one for white people. Imagine referring to them as white, European, and majority bland food. WEMS. Ridiculous. I mean, white guys have 8 white mates called Dave, and they still understand that there's Fat Dave, there's Car Thief Dave, and there's Dave the Plonker. I mean, how much of a plonker is Plonker Dave that is more of a plonker than Car Thief Dave? I don't know. And it's such an offensive term, isn't it? It's so offensive that it's managed to make me agree with Priti Patel. I mean, Priti Patel. Whoever wants to agree with her? Because she hates being called BAME too. You know, I never thought I'd be agreeing with a woman who bends so far over to the right to please white people that she's always got her foot in her mouth. The only thing she's done more than screwing up is deportations. And unfortunately, we have more things in common. It's a shame, but we both make people laugh when we're doing our jobs. Well, enough about Priti Patel. Let's talk about more interesting people, like BPS members. But before we do that, here's how we're going to do things today. At 1:15 and until 2:45, BPS members will be doing their pre-recorded showcase presentations. So make sure you stick around. Around 2:10 to 2:15, we're going to be taking a 5-minute comfort break. A quick pop to the loo, get your coffee or your tea and back. And then the presentations continue from 2:15 to 2:45. And then at 2:45 to 3, there's an opportunity for Q&A. So if you have any questions for BPS members or Wayne, just leave them in the chat box and we'll collect them and attempt to answer them. And we're going to finish at 3 p.m. prompt. Okay? So for now, just sit back, kick off your shoes, relax, and give these brilliant and motivating BPS members the attention they deserve. Yay!
Hi everyone, a really warm welcome. It's fantastic that you're joining this event today. I'm really sorry that I can't be with you. I am away in Scotland, so sincere apologies I can't be with you in person. it's a fantastic event that's been hosted, and many thanks for Claudia's fantastic introduction as well. I think for me, today is about celebration. It's about a celebration of the Black Professional Symposium, which has been in existence now for over a year. It was very much instigated and led by Reid, Professional Officer with BASW England. And it came from a real, genuine commitment from England to listen to our members and to really make a difference in terms of creating safe space for Black workers and minoritised workers as well from diverse communities, to ensure that people could share knowledge, skills, expertise, and the fantastic, rich diversity of a workforce of social workers in England. It's been a fantastic journey to watch. And I know I keep saying fantastic, but it really has been, so just run with it. It's been a wonderful journey, bringing people together, both men and women in that group, and also from an intersectionality perspective. Certainly from the feedback that I've been receiving and the joy of attending the anniversary event, it was really powerful and poignant to hear from members about people coming together in terms of safe space, really feeling that they could talk about some of the challenges and the obstacles in terms of racism, both within the workplace, but within the personal context of their lives, and the historical impact of both colonialism, oppression, and the constant fight that still exists across the sector in terms of supporting Black staff in career pathways and other staff in career pathways to ensure that we have leaders and practice managers and social workers that reflect the communities that we serve. It's really important that change happens and that we make change happen collectively. So it's been really powerful to hear about the safe space for members of that group, but also about the sharing of expertise and knowledge and life and professional experiences. So members of the group who you will hear from today come from diverse backgrounds and also are in many different roles as social workers. And it's important that we listen to the key messages, both of the celebration and the achievements, but also about the journey that we are still on. And organisations need to be brave. We need to look at ourselves both as individuals and organisational culture to make that change. And I think there are some really stark realities here that we still need to listen and understand. Racism exists within the workplace, within communities, and it's here and it exists and it's painful and it is brutal, and we need to make a difference. So certainly as a white ally, I am committed to making sure that voices are heard, that we make words into action, and we look at changes. But today is also, a real focus of celebration. And I am really proud and honoured that collectively we've made the Black Professionals Symposium happen. It's come to fruition. And certainly from the feedback from members, it really has made a difference, and we want it to continue to. So for today, celebrate, hear from our members, hear about the contribution of members of the BPS group, and enjoy the day. Have a great day. Best wishes, and hope to see you soon in person or virtually. Take care.
Hello. Just before we hear from the members of the BPS group, I'd just like to say a few words. My name is Reid. I'm a professional officer social worker and anti-racism visionary for BASW England, and I'm also the founder of the Black and Ethnic Minority Professional Symposium, BPS. Unfortunately, not all of the members are able to deliver presentations to you, but we have a selection of members from the group who've kindly agreed to showcase their social work settings that they work in, and also their reasons for joining the BPS and what they've got from the group. Just before we hear from them, I'd like to share with you the original flyer that we sent out for interest in the group. You'll see there some of the aims and objectives that we set out for the group and the areas of interest. We also have the person specification, which outlines some of the knowledge and expertise that we were looking for. And I'm proud to say that the members of the group that we have more than surpass those expectations. I'll give you a moment just to have a look through that flyer. Okay, so thank you for listening to me. Thank you for looking at that flyer, and I'll hand over now to our BPS members.
Hi, I'm Pauline. I'm a social worker of 25 years, predominantly based and practiced in mental health social work. I work in London, and I still enjoy what I do after 25 years. I was attracted originally to social work because I knew it was a radical profession, as well as having some therapeutic elements. And this was what was important to me, because I thought that social work would enable me to show the values that I already had, and later found out that these were social work values. It's very important to me to continue to think about why I'm doing social work, how I'm doing it, how I'm practicing, and what impact I have on other people. So the settings that I've been in, originally I was working in the voluntary sector as an unqualified social worker, predominantly with children and young people. Once I became a social worker, I've worked with adults more. I'm an approved mental health professional, therefore I work with those who are unwell, mentally unwell, and I provide, alongside health colleagues, secondary mental health care. I've been a practice educator since 2003, and I continue to welcome learners, students, apprentices into our profession. I work alongside colleagues in universities as a teaching consultant, and I've been doing this since 2014. At the moment, I'm an advanced social worker, and I also starting to do more consultancy. So I work on a more strategic level, looking at, being part of the decision making in the organisation, and helping other people who are, on the lower rungs of their profession, helping them to think about their continued professional development, what they need to do, what they need to know, where they need to be. So I'm very much, I very much do coaching and mentoring also. So I've been told, and I do agree, that one of my particular skills is that of reflection and analysis, critical reflection and analysis. And I provide quarterly sessions to my colleagues, really based on looking at the emotional aspects of what their job entails. This is very much welcomed by colleagues, and it's our space to just think about what we do and how we're actually feeling. I joined the Black Professional Symposium almost as part of my own CPD, because I just knew that that group could do something for me, even at this stage in my career. Next slide, please. So as chair of the Black Professional Symposium, we work strategically to strengthen diversity, equality and inclusion in the workplace and elsewhere. We are here to promote anti-racist and anti-oppressive practice, and to address the disadvantage that many of us, have felt, have been through, and still see happening. So as chair, I'm hoping that I'm supporting the group and contributing to its promotion. I take any learning that I have from the group back to my workplace. Next slide, please. So I've been part of the workplace race equality standards. There was a call from the Department of Health in October 2020 for boroughs to send in expressions of interest for a pilot that is now running. Unfortunately, my local authority didn't get onto the pilot, but I was the main reason for us even putting an expression in, because I was determined that, you know, my borough needed it. I'm working closely with other boroughs who are part of the pilot, because again, I say my borough needed it. At the moment, I'm supporting Black managers in my borough to address inequalities in the workplace, which are still ongoing. As a result of this, we work directly with our director, and we are now going to start introducing reverse mentoring, which we think will help. I work with my local university in helping Black students, particularly those who have mental health issues and which are associated with their experiences at university. So I've started to work with some of the lecturers and some other colleagues in helping Black students get through their university experience. Next slide, please. So it is my dream, like the great late Reverend Martin Luther King. You know, I really have a dream that Black and ethnic minority social workers will realise their professional goals without having the barriers of discrimination and inequalities. It's very important to me, hence my taking part in the Black Professional Symposium. I want my voice to be heard alongside my colleagues in the group. You know, I want to work at a certain level where I know that we can make changes. You know, I know that we can be heard because we need to be heard as Black social workers and other social workers. We all social workers work very hard, and it breaks my heart when I see, you know, Black social workers and other ethnic minorities working in the profession and not even being recognised. I want to make a difference for those people, and that's why I'm part of the BPS. Thank you.
So hello and welcome everybody. My name is Sharrel Francis and I am the Vice Chair of the Black and Ethnic Minorities Professional Symposium. So today I'll just be kind of giving you a little run through about me, what led me to join the BPS, and a little bit about my social working role. So I hope you enjoy. So this is just a little bit about me in terms of some of the hats that I wear. So currently, profession-wise, I am a workforce development consultant. Prior to that, I qualified in 2013 as a social worker, and I've been able to work in 2 different local authorities. And I found that through my experiences, I've been able to now go into learning and development. So that's basically supporting newly qualifieds and doing a whole range of different activities and tasks, which I'll come on to slightly shorter into this presentation. As mentioned, I am the Vice Chair of the Black and Ethnic Minority Professional Symposium, and I was elected and voted in by my peers, which has been an honour and something that I'm hopeful will continue in the future. Within my role within BASW, I've been able to be nominated and now am part of the race equality. Well, the Social Work News have a board, and I am the race equality board member. So that's something that's been a new role for me, but it's something that I've also have enjoyed because I've been able to ensure that publications are accountable, and it's not just certain faces that we always see. I'm also a teaching consultant, so that just involves me going into a local university and just delivering some training and workshops, giving some experience about being in practice, and it's definitely something that I do enjoy in terms of learning and developing. I'm also a practice educator, which means that I tend to have students that come and shadow me, and I support them throughout their first and final placements to get them ready to basically go into practice as a social worker. I thought I'd also throw in there something about being a volunteer, because it's another hat that I wear. I currently volunteer as a reading support mentor of some sort with young children, and that's with an organisation called Bookmark. So online for about 2 hours a week, I have a child for a 12-week programme, and I just basically help them with their literacy and just supporting them to be more confident readers and with their social skills. So it's been slightly different to what I'm doing now, but it's very, very rewarding. And previously, I also volunteered at a local food bank just to give back to the community. As mentioned, I'm a qualified social worker, and I've been fortunate to be trained in what's called systemic social work practice. And that's just a way of working in terms of how we engage families, working through a strength-based model. So prior to being a social worker, I did actually study psychology, and that was my first degree. So I felt like I have best of both, and I'm able to kind of touch into some of my psychology background and to help me apply some of that theory, knowledge and skills into my social working role. I've also got a level 3 in British Sign Language, very random, but I just wanted to learn a language, and Sign Language was the one that I decided to kind of embark that journey on, and was able to do 3 levels to get to where I am. So if you see that I'm quite animated and I'm using a lot of hand gestures, that's something to do with my background in Sign Language. And lastly, I have a strong passion and I play basketball. It's just something that I do for fun, and I just recommend that it's ideal that you have a work-life balance in terms of doing all these different activities and tasks, but also a little bit of exercise and fun. So coming on to a bit about my social working role, as mentioned, I am a workforce development consultant. And originally that started off as a secondment, which was for a year. So an opportunity came up. It was something new, very interesting because it came up during the pandemic. So I actually had to interview virtually, which was completely different because the kind of character I am, I like to do the face-to-face kind of interview. But in a nutshell, I applied for the post and was successful. So following that, within the year, and I'm going to come on to what I've been able to do, I was able to reapply for a permanent position. And as of the last 2 months, I've been confirmed and now have permanently been put into that position. So one of the hats or roles that I do is lead on the social work apprenticeship. And that's just something that, in terms of another route into getting into social work, you've got your traditional university routes, you've got something called frontline, which is another way of getting into social work, and an apprenticeship is another kind of pathway in. So I support with sorting out their placements, I check in with them once a month, I sort out what's called a rotation, which is other pockets of social work that they get to kind of embark on, and literally help them throughout the 3 years that they'll be in practice. Alongside that, I've had to learn to become confident in delivering training, and not just face-to-face, but within the virtual platform. So I deliver on what's called a core offer training. So that means within the wider workforce, I deliver, along with my other colleagues, training that's been identified as areas of needs. So like assessments, pre-birth, analysis, writing, you name it, it's something that I've learned to kind of deliver. And what's been useful is I've been able to kind of touch on my own experiences being in practice for 7 years, matched with my aspects of when I go to training, what I do like and what I don't like. So I'm very interactive. I can't just be having someone talking at me. It's nothing that I wouldn't learn from that. So I've been able to bring those skills into my delivering of training, and it's been something of a challenge, but I think I've been able to overcome that. So I also oversee a cohort of newly qualified social workers. So currently in my team, we consist of 5 staff members, myself included, and 1 business support officer. The other 3 individuals also have different work strands, but we all collaboratively work with newly qualified and support them. So what that means is anyone that's finished their final student placement, they come onto our year program and we do their assessments. We ensure that, you know, they're protected in terms of their caseloads, and we offer them monthly training. I provide supervision, which is reflective, and just kind of help them through the process to go forth and become an experienced social worker or find areas that they're interested in. what's been amazing is I've had the opportunity to kind of liaise with external partners. So I've had an opportunity to work with other organisations and learn about how they do things, whether it's their apprenticeships, whether it's about newly qualified, or just general social work. So that's kept me abreast of new theories, ideas of working, and that's been useful. As mentioned before, I'm a practice educator, and I also am a practice assessor. So that basically means that I'm supporting individuals that are training to become practice educators, and that's something that they would study on what's called the PEPs. And that's something that I will just basically help and support them through that process. One thing that I don't really enjoy as much, but is part of my role, is doing audits and moderation of portfolios. And the reason why I don't enjoy it as much is because it's great reading the information, but because the person's not there with you, you can't get a real sense of that individual. Because like I said, I'm a very face-to-face, hands-on kind of person. But that being said, it's a new skill that I've been able to take up on, and I think I'm excelling in it. I think I'm very reflective, and I've been able to take on that role as being a group reflective supervisor. So I do offer reflective sessions as a group or individually with newly qualifieds, some of the wider workforce. And within that, I've been fortunate to attend action learning set training, which is another form of reflective practice. And something that I enjoy doing, because it's kind of face-to-face, as I said, is recruiting and interviewing students and newly qualifieds. And most recently, I was involved in the Step Up panel, which is another pathway into social work. We were able to do a whole assessment week, and it was very intense, but it was very interesting at the same time. So I've talked a lot about my social working role, but the crux of why I'm really here is about the BPS. And what I want to now come on to is talking about what brought me here. So initially, when it was advertised, for me, it came at the right time. It just drew me to the idea of being involved in a community of professionals, have the ability to network and learn from each other's experiences. As you know, and as I identify, I'm a Black British woman, and I am proud of being that. But I just thought that there was something missing in terms of something for us. And when I say us, I mean Black and ethnic minority professionals. And this, the BPS was perfect for it. So it's not your typical group. And when I say not typical, because we recognise that we are Black and ethnic minorities, and I won't be using the term BAME because I don't agree with it, and that's my personal reason behind that. But it wasn't a typical forum, and that's what really sparked my interest in wanting to become involved. And since being involved in the group, I've, just like my colleague Pam had said earlier, I've been able to meet amazing individuals and learn from their experiences. And some of the ideas have been great to share within practice. The current systems in place that continue to limit the amount of support and guidance to promote us as Black and ethnic minorities regarding progression into higher managerial positions is something that I've had first-hand experience of and noticed. What was interesting is I learned about a glass ceiling theory, but also there's a sticky floor syndrome. And that's basically saying that you don't even leave the level that you are on. And for me, that spoke volumes. I've been fortunate that most recently I'm starting to have those opportunities to progress. So in my current role as a consultant, but many others don't get that opportunity. And that's why the remit of this group spoke volumes to me. So since being involved, just as you can see on the slide, this is just a little snippet of what I've been able to contribute to. I do feel like I've been an active member of the group, and I will continue to do that. I've been able to write an article in the Professional Social Work magazine, which was held online, about my role and what led me to becoming a part of being the BPS. Going on about my presentation skills, I was able to present to an online recruitment event, which was aimed at Black and ethnic minority professionals, in collaboration with Parrot Labour, and we just spoke about our experiences and our social working journey. That was definitely interesting, and afterwards I was asked a few questions, which I was slightly nervous about, but I felt like they were really good questions, and I was able to give an accurate account of that. In addition to that, I've been able to write an article for BASW as part of Black History Month, and it was just my experiences and my understanding of it, not just being about a month, but it should be a continuation of celebrations throughout the course of the year. I've also been able to present for World Social Work Day with a few other lovely and inspirational women for Bromley Council, and we talked about once again, the BPS, what we've been involved in and what we intend to achieve in moving forward. And I've also completed a book review, once again for the BASW publication. And that was very interesting because it was an opportunity to give my take on what I've read without kind of revealing too much, so that people could feel interested in wanting to read it. So in a nutshell, that is me. It's just been over a year since being vice chair, and I feel like as a group, we have been able to do so much and work so well together. And I look forward to what the BPS will be offering in the foreseeable future. Thank you for listening.
Hi everybody, my name is Carla and I'm an ASYE social worker working in the Northwest in Bolton. I have been working for about 25 years in various occupations, roles, in schools, local authorities, the voluntary sector, and it was only really later on in life, so to speak, that I decided to become a social worker, completing my diploma in social work in 2021. And it was during my time as a student that I came across BASW and the work of Reid and the BPS organisation. I applied to join, so to speak, and was accepted. And since that time, I've had the benefit to be part of this professional network and be able to deliver a number of events. When we joined the BASW BPS group, one of the key areas that we needed to kind of look at was the training around anti-racist, anti-oppressive and anti-discriminatory practice within social work, so to speak. My first session took place within Wolverhampton local authority, where I presented to about 220 adult and children's social work, because that was kind of nerve-wracking with the amount of people there, but it went down very well with the feedback that was received, and from there the organisation was kind of well ahead with some of the things that it was already doing, but even Wolverhampton decided to move ahead with some of its cultural competence work. From there, my placement at the time was with Wigan Local Authority, and I'll talk about Wigan Local Authority later on. They asked me to do a specific session with them, and I did the same anti-racism session with 120 or so attendees in the spring of 2021. It only needs one issue or one member of staff coming forward to radically change. And I'll talk about the impact of this training that we did on Wigan later on. I've since moved on to my full-time job within Bolton, and I've told them about the fact that I was part of the BASW BPS network, and I was interested in doing the anti-racism session. So once again in July, just last month, I did a session with both the principal social workers being present, and from there what's basically developed is that there's going to be a BME or a people of colour workers forum that they're going to be looking to develop come September. In between those times, at University of Salford asked us to do some short pieces of work with their final year undergraduates. My lecturer asked me to come back, so I did a bit of a session with them, and also Greater Manchester practice educators were also given a short session on anti-racism awareness, because we all know about the struggles that ASYE social workers have in completing their ASYEs in their first year. So it's been a really good opportunity to learn from the BPS, but also be able to put in place some of the learning that I get from it and cascade that learning across the authorities. So I've always been interested in the anti-racist, anti-discriminatory, equality and diversity agenda, but I think the BPS network has kind of put me in an enviable position to influence wider than my kind of current role. So although I'm an operational officer and an ASYE in many ways, because of the reach that we have, it allows me to kind of have wider contacts and links with senior managers to hopefully effect change. One of the key areas that I wanted just to tell you about and update you on is from the work in Wigan. Now, Wigan is an authority that's on its journey, as many local authorities are, on their anti-racist practice. It transpired that one of the workers who'd been subjected to racist abuse was very moved by the session, and I got in touch with the assistant director, who was also part of the briefing that I gave. And from there, the authority is radically changing its anti-racist approach, and they've asked me to come back a couple of times to speak to their senior leadership team around improving their anti-racism, anti-discriminatory, and really rehash and relook at the equality and diversity and inclusion agenda. So it just shows that what we can do, it just takes one person to kind of come forward, and credit to this work on the ground who had the guts and the bravery to come forward, and it's really snowballed into a massive change for this particular authority. So it's really been beneficial for me in developing my professionalism, and obviously it's also benefiting many local authorities as well, where we deliver this worthy session. And that's it as far as my role with regards to BPS. I hope to continue attending regular forums and learning from the wide network of professionals who attend this group, and also learning a lot from Wayne in his visionary role. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Shabnam Ahmed, and I'm a social worker working in London. I've worked in adult social care for 23 years now. I'm also a practice educator, and I'm a very, very proud member of the Black and Ethnic Professional Symposium, which we've shortened to BPS. So I joined BPS last year really to have a space for a term I've coined called reflect-action. So following the tragic murder of George Floyd and several others prior to that and after that, there was a real invigoration in the Black Lives Matter movement, and a lot of organisations, local authorities, the world of academia started to reflect. And really at that point I thought, you know, reflection just simply isn't enough. Reflection is great, but in order to move from that platform to action, we have to do something called reflect action. And I joined BPS because there were like-minded people there who wanted to actually put forward their reflections into actions. And by being a member of this group, I've really had the opportunity to expand my community of practice, because I felt so inspired by the members of the group to do the brave things in promoting anti-racist practice, possibly things that I would not have been able to do without the support of this group. So I think it's been central to the work that I've done in the last year, aligned with the BPS and anti-racist practice, which I'm going to share with you through the next slide. So on the next slide, I've just summarised some of the things I've done. I've done some more things, but I thought these were central to share today. So one of the first things is that I've led and hosted anti-racist webinars in my place of work. And these have been educational webinars, and in December it will be 1 year where we've had scholars, academics and people from social work come in and talk about the topic of anti-racist practice. We've had psychologists, as I said, professors sharing their models with us, and really getting us to think as an organisation how we want to progress in our anti-racist work, and it's coming up to 1 year, and we've still got Dr. Gennam coming in and Professor Claudia Bernard to end up and finalise those webinars, so then we can look at what's changed next year and then how we take that forward. One of the other things that I did was I presented on World Social Work Day again to my council, mentioning the BPS and the work we're doing, but also again asking everyone to think about how anti-racist practice needs to be part of all the work that we do. I'm also leading on a safe space, again very much inspired by the BPS group here. There's about 15 of us at work that have come together, and I've called the group Reaching In and Reaching Out, because I ask everyone present there to reach in to ourselves, to our commitment, but also we reach in within other teams within the organisation and the service to find out what work they're doing and remain connected, because it's all linked at the end of the day. Policy impacts practice. And then we reach out and invite people to come in from other organisations and speak to us and help us with the work we're doing. Now, this is a group which is open to Black and ethnic minority staff, but also we have white allies and leaders working with us. I've also been I've contributed to the zero tolerance guidance at my place of work, which is for providers. So really getting behind the care agencies and the care homes and all the providers on supporting them and the workforce, making it very clear that we've got a zero tolerance policy, and if any staff member faces racism, then there's a guidance on how we work with them and support them. I've provided some advice around the anti-racist training for the entire council. So the council has commissioned an organisation to train every single person in the council on anti-racism, and I have advised on the content of that. As part of the BPS, I've been doing presentations, and I recently presented to the BASW newly qualified social work and student group, and my presentation was titled Talking About Race Through Supervision. My own research, I'm doing a doctorate, and then I've just finished my second year, is on the topic of the experience of supervision for Black and ethnic minority social workers in adult social care. So as part of that, I'm doing a lot of reading, and that reading and evidence-informed information is really impacting on my practice. So that's been really helpful, and it's kind of led me to writing, and I contributed to the wonderful, beautiful book Outlanders that Wayne Reid has edited with Siobhan McLean, and also writing a lot of articles sort of promoting anti-racist practice. I have been doing some seminars at universities, including the University of Cardiff and Cumbria, about anti-racist practice. Again, a really kind of good experience to connect with the next generation of social workers. Lots of presentations at conferences, and they're not, even if they're not titled anti-racist practice, some of them are, but even if they're not, if they're on well-being or if they're on supervision, I will always use my voice to give a platform to anti-racist practice, because, you know, social work is void without it, really. It's not complete without talking about anti-racist practice, as is one's well-being and supervision. Something I'm very proud of is I developed my own supervision model last year called the 6 R's of supervision, and although one of the R's isn't race, all the R's actually help us to talk about race through supervision. So the model is a relational model, it's an anti-racist model, and it looks at you can use it in different ways, and one of the ways I promote using it is as a checklist. So using the R's to check to do a spot check on if your supervision or your practice indeed includes anti-racist practice. The other thing I've been working very hard on is my School of Shabs, my YouTube channel, which has a focus on supervision, but particularly focusing in on anti-racist supervision. So how much does race, anti-racism, intersectionality feature in our supervision spaces? And finally, one of the things I've been doing is with the support of the BPS group, is finalising a supervision form, again through an anti-racist lens, because all of this is linked actually. If you're thinking about my research, what I'm learning from the evidence is that race, racism, anti-racism doesn't feature in supervision in the way that it should. Evidence is telling us that Black and ethnic minority social workers are not progressing. So I really feel strongly that supervision is a space where these conversations need to be taking place. So I'm working on a form, a template for those supervisors who may not be doing this and may need some support around that. So that's some of the work that I've been doing over the year. And actually, until I didn't put it down in this presentation, I hadn't really realized the contribution that I had been making. Yeah, that's it, Wayne.
Hello, everyone. My name is Pam Shadende. I'm a member of the BPS group, which is the Black Professional Symposium group, which is a group by BASW. I'm also vice chair of the newly qualified social work group and also student group. I'm just really glad to be here today and to talk about my experiences as a social worker and also being a member of the BPS group. Right, so that's just a brief introduction of who I am. Now, can I go to the next slide, please? Right, so as I said, I'm a social worker. I qualified in January 2020, which was actually quite a surreal time to qualify because straight after, I think it was March, we had the first lockdown. So obviously coming into practice and shortly after learning to work in the pandemic has been a massive learning curve for me, but I'm just really glad I've had the right support to get me through that. I'm also one of the founding members of the BPS group, which is actually quite interesting because at the time when I joined the BPS, there was a lot going on for me personally in my professional and personal life. And I think joining the group has really given me some insights in navigating some of the issues that I've come across in terms of the importance of anti-racism in practice and also in wider society as well. So I think it's been quite nice for me to be part of this group. As I earlier mentioned, I'm the vice chair of the BASW student and newly qualified group, which also has been very helpful for my professional development and generally working with some amazing people in the group. Again, just coming together and thinking of ideas of how we can develop ourselves as students and newly qualified social workers. Obviously, as I qualified in 2020, I'm no longer per se a newly qualified social worker, but in terms of support, that's currently sort of where I am within the group. And as I said, I do work with some really amazing people coming together and thinking of ideas of how we can develop that. A fun fact about me, I thought this was interesting to share, is I do blog in my spare time. I've got a parenting blog and I love to cook as well as one of my therapeutic hobbies. So yeah, so that's me. I have touched on this already, but in terms of benefits of being a member of the BPS, I think at the time it was really important that we had a safe space to discuss the systemic issues of racism that had impacted on Black and ethnic minority social workers. I think up until when the murder of George Floyd became a movement, and obviously people saw the importance of talking about racism, this was an issue that had really never been openly discussed, even though it was an issue and there'd been a lot of research about it. But I think that really provided a platform to allow people to really start to talk about the issues and the importance of actually the movement of anti-racism within social work practice and the importance of that. So this group has given me that confidence to be able to do that. Within the group, we've got, I think we're 15 at the moment. A lot of us are still founding members. We've all created a bond, I believe, and sort of like-mindedness that we can openly share our experiences, and also think about solution-focused actions, you know, things that we can do within our professional spaces, and also as a group come together to think about things that we can do to promote anti-racism. And as I've talked about before, in terms of confidence building, that's definitely helped me to be able to think outside of the box. What can I do in my professional life? What can I do even as an individual in society to discuss openly and talk about the impact of racism, and why you know, we need to really start to think about why anti-racism is important within practice, in education, and as social workers in general. And then continue the conversation of anti-racist social work practice through delivery of presentations, writing articles, conducting events that empower Black and ethnic minority social workers to smash the gap ceiling in their profession. Personally, I've written an article, I think that was last year. I wrote an article talking about the Black History Month. And I found that to be really important to talk about, because we do obviously have a lot of the celebrations, you know, and very momentary in Black History Month, but I feel obviously a lot of that needs to be unpicked as to, you know, why do we have to sort of isolate Black History Month to 1 month, which is something I did talk about in the article. And a lot of the other members of the group as well have, you know, written a few articles talking about their personal experiences, and I think it has been really important as a group for us to be able to do that. And you know, feeling empowered as well. And we did have a really good successful event last year on smashing the glass ceiling in our profession. So again, I think that was really important that we're able to have that event, and I think it was quite a successful event because we had a number of people there with very insightful advice and professional development advice that, you know, people could actually implement in their actual social work careers. I think we've had some very positive feedback about that as well. So as I said, some of the work that I've personally undertaken within the BPS is I've delivered an anti-racist presentation on behalf of the group. I've also been a keynote speaker addressing the attainment gap for Black and ethnic minority students. That is an area of social work that I'm very passionate about, because as a Black social work student, so my personal experiences, you know, were quite negative, and to be able to navigate that wasn't very easy. So, you know, in terms of being able to openly talk about how racism can impact students' experiences, and, you know, actually how that sometimes might set the tone for you in practice, I think is an area of social work that really needs to be looked into. At my previous place of employment, I was also a race champion. Again, as I said, being a part of the BPS had given me that confidence to be able to openly discuss issues of race at work, and I was able to demonstrate that by being a race champion. And as I said, I've written an article on Black History Month, which was published last year. I've also facilitated alongside the group for the newly qualified student group on the importance of taking an anti-racist approach in supervision for students and newly qualified social workers. And that was sometime, I think, in March we had that, or in May, sorry, that we had that webinar. And it was really interesting having Shabnam, Ahmed, and Prosper Tedham, who was actually quite prominent social workers that had come in to actually talk about this area of social work and the importance of supervision. And I think, again, we've had some really positive feedback about that, and how, you know, we had quite a lot of practice educators on that, and a lot of students have had some insight as to obviously ways that they could navigate their experiences and be able to openly discuss issues that were impacting on them in supervision. So I think, again, that was quite an important webinar. And then finally, I was a panel at the BASW annual conference discussing pertinent topic on getting your first social work role and the importance of promoting anti-poverty in social work practice. So in a nutshell, that's me. And as I said, I feel really blessed to be able to be a part of the BPS. Coming into practice, I would say that I did have a lot of issues around my confidence as a social worker, obviously based on some of my past experiences. But I think being a part of this group and working alongside some very knowledgeable practitioners who have been in practice a long time, you know, giving advice and, you know, talking about their experiences and things that, you know, they've done to navigate those spaces for themselves, to develop themselves, you know, has also given me that given me ideas on how I personally want to develop within social work. And obviously I think that this group is only just started. There's a lot of amazing things that are yet to come, and I'm just excited to see what's going to happen going forward in the next few years with the BPS. So we'll definitely watch this space. So yeah, that's me.
Okay, what an amazing group of anti-racist activists we've got here. I mean, these are people who are, they're not just armchair anti-racists, are they? They're the people who spend their time actually out there doing things, making things change. In fact, you know, as I was listening to all of this, I had to wonder, how do they find the time? Because social work is a very complicated profession and incredibly busy with rising caseloads and, you know, cuts in resources, staff shortages, all of that. And yet these people, these members of the BPS, they're finding the time to put in the extra, you know, going into organisations, doing presentations in their workplace, writing things, championing anti-racism. It's just quite amazing. So let's see, I think some of you have entered a few things in the chat. Let's have a look. Right, someone found it very interesting and informative. Fantastic. An amazing group of people, definitely. And the impact in wider society, not just in organisation. That's from, I can't see the word there. And then Sarah says, give me food for thought. I was interested in your move to the countryside, having done something similar. Well, that's not the BPS members, but yes, you're always willing to come in and move next door. There's a house next door they can't sell, and it's a new build. I live in Fletney, by the way, in Leicestershire. We've got people who are interested in joining the group. That's fantastic. Go ahead, do it. It's going to be of real benefit, not just to you, but to the organisation you work in, and of course to the people you're serving.
Just to come in there briefly, Claudia.
Okay.
I just wanted to mention that the group is a closed group, and we're currently at capacity. So there isn't sort of availability at the moment, but we will be reviewing that over the coming months, just so people are clear. But really good that people are interested in the group. But watch this space.
Yeah. Okay.
Over to you.
Thanks for that, Wayne. Somebody said great group of role models and anti-racist activists. Yeah, I'll definitely. Sharda said, great to hear of Black professional success and their inspiration for others, creating the courage to act to promote anti-racist social work. Brilliant. I always find it, this is from Maxine, I always find it beneficial when Black members share their experiences and journey into social work, and it's inspiring to the profession, definitely. And these stories we very rarely hear about, do we? Because the positive things that Black people do are very rarely spoken about. You don't see much of it in the press. You know, so actually sitting here listening to what the few members who have spoken so far have actually been getting up to, it's really inspiring. Okay. Any more comments? What would you say was your biggest learning from all of this? What was your biggest learning? Anyone want to put something in the chat? I think my biggest learning was definitely to do with how much you can achieve when you put your mind to it. So even though you're probably working all the hours God sends, when you organise yourself and you have a passion and you're motivated to go for something, you can achieve a lot. That's probably my biggest learning. Someone said getting allies on board. Oh, definitely, and that's something we need to do because you know, we're not going to do this work by ourselves, are we? We do need our allies there with us.
Claudia, just to come in again briefly and say, I think there's a comment just above the one you've just read there as well. Yeah.
Let me see. I came in late.
I'll read it out to you.
Okay,
the comment is, I've found this quite interesting so far. However, I came in late to today's meeting. At first thoughts, my first time, would actually thought the pictures were for an interview of some kind. No, it's not an interview. But I'll hand back over to Claudia just to reiterate.
Okay. Yeah, definitely not an interview. You've probably clarified that now, but basically BPS members sharing their experiences of being members of the BPS, how they've benefited and what they've been able to contribute in the name of the BPS. So thanks for coming. All right, any more comments? We've got one from Sharrel for you, Wayne. She's saying she wondered if those who are interested in joining a current closed group could be involved in specific task finish groups which are chaired by BPS members. Do you want to comment on that, Wayne, or shall we leave that one for the Q&A?
I'm happy to comment on that now, as soon as we're in the break, and I think we've got a couple of minutes.
Yeah,
Just very quickly to say that I think there would be potential for that in the future, but a lot of it really depends around the availability and capacity of BPS members, as they all work full time, as some have already alluded to in the presentations. And in terms of BASW capacity as well, you know, we have to be careful that there's lots of different work streams that we're involved in. So we don't really want to, or we have to be mindful of overstretching ourselves. But there's certainly potential for that going forward, and it's something that, you know, as a group we can discuss and review. So thank you, Sharrel. Back to you, Claudia.
Shabnam put in a very interesting quote from James Baldwin, which kind of summed up her biggest learning. And it says, "The world is not fixed. We made the world we live in, and we have to make it over." Well, that is so true. Thanks for that, Shabnam. I'm going to nick that quote. I know it's James Baldwin, but it is definitely one that we should be putting out there. And that even the smallest or purposeful action will alter people's reality. Absolutely. It doesn't matter how small your action, it can still bring about change. That's something for us to think about. Okay, we've just got one more minute before we move on to the next part of the presentation. So anyone got something very quickly they want to add? We've got Pauline, who said, "My learning that we are actually in this together." Definitely, Pauline. Thank you for that. That's a really powerful statement for us to be finishing this particular section on. And we're going to move on to the next lot of presentations. So thank you very much for those who've contributed in the chat. See you later.
A poem of acknowledgement for the Black and Ethnic Professional Symposium. We met as a group of like-minded folks, an interested agenda we wanted to provoke, with raised concerns following the event of George Floyd. BASW's Wayne Reid identified a void. A wealth of experience we all bear, talent and passion we all share. We believe a light of the anti-racist tunnel is somewhere out there. There is an enthusiasm for wholesale change, as it's what BPS is about. White allyship and newfound confidence has breathed life into the anti-racist movement with next level clout. There is a passion for change, and that's what we are bringing, with white allies from the same hymn sheet singing. A message of change they cannot deny as a Black and ethnic professional symposium takes the wing and flies.
Hi, my name's Jackie. I'm from Stoke-on-Trent in the West Midlands, and I currently work for Stoke-on-Trent City Council as Adult Safeguarding Team Manager. Okay, a little bit about me, my background. My father left Jamaica in the 60s, the early 60s, with his 3 brothers. 3 of them came to the UK and 1 of his brothers settled in the USA. Soon after coming to the UK, he met my mum, who's white British. So I'm one of 3 children they had together. I've also got 3 brothers who remained in Jamaica when my dad left. One's now in the UK, one's in Jamaica, and one's in the USA. So you can appreciate that I've got family overseas and in the UK. I'm a mother of an adult male and a 16-year-old daughter. I qualified as a social worker in the late 90s, and I've worked in the following areas. First off, I started as an agency social worker in family placement and adoption. Then I got a contract as hospital social work team. Moved on to under 65 disability team and sensory team. I focused on adults because my primary work in children's, I just felt it wasn't for me. I was more comfortable working with adults. I worked on the learning disability team as a practice lead. I think they commonly term senior social workers now. Approved mental health professional, best interest assessor under the Mental Capacity Act, and I also did emergency duty team sessional work. Present day work, I'm a team manager for the adult safeguarding team in Stoke. My responsibilities are all adult safeguarding, close links with the safeguarding board. I've got a team in MASH, which is the multi-agency safeguarding hub, and deprivation liberty safeguards team, which is a team of best interest assessors who assess under the Mental Capacity Act. The question is, why did I join BASW's BPS? Well, like everybody, in the summer of 2020, following George Floyd's murder, I think everybody was deeply affected by that. From your own circumstance, you saw what was happening in America, and if you've got family in America, it was affecting you. Me personally, on my level, I've got brothers, cousins, nephews and nieces in America, Jamaica, in the UK. Got adult son who's Black. So it was very, very emotional time for everybody. And I noticed in my local authority there was an obvious silence. There was no statement from the local authority. All we got were from the principal social worker, Wayne's emails, which were very enlightening. It was really positive at the time. So I asked to be joined to Wayne's distribution list. Then I began to distribute them to the adult social care workforce. So now I share all of the information with the adult social care workforce, and I'm also the workplace race equality standards lead. So I'm taking this forward because I'm quite passionate about it within my local authority. The aim was to get people talking about how they felt about George Floyd's murder and other injustices, and recognising that this does happen, injustice does happen, and to chip away at the culture of silence within the local authority, because ignoring the issue and hoping it will pass, it just acknowledges the unconscious bias and institutional racism within the organisation. So I am very fortunate in my local authority that they are taking it quite seriously, but there is a long way to go. So this is just the start of the journey, really. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Maureen. I'm originally from Zimbabwe and I have been living in England for the past 22 years. I've always worked in professions that are related to social work, but my first my first role as a social worker was a child protection setting in Surrey as a child protection social worker. Currently, I work as a mental health social worker and I also lecture social work. So this is my social work journey. I started off in child protection, working whilst I was doing my ASYE, and then I progressed on to become a mental health social worker, which I'm currently doing now. I work for the crisis team. In the meantime, I also lecture social work at the University of Brighton, and I teach research methods in social sciences. I'm a proud member of BASW's Black and Ethnic Minority Professional Symposium, and through this, I'm also doing my doctoral research, which is on female genital mutilation and social work. So this is assessing how social workers talk to or work with FGM affectees, FGM survivors. I'm a founder and director of Langer Solutions, so that means I do consultancy, which is mostly around gender-based violence. So currently I consult for rape crisis in South London, and I'm doing FGM work there, so I work there as an FGM expert. My qualifications include an undergraduate degree in sociology. I have a master's degree in development studies and a second master's in social work. Okay, so I've already mentioned some of the things I've done, but or doing currently. I'm a senior social worker on the crisis team that's in mental health, a lecturer in social work. I am also involved in mentoring Black social work students at the university because there was a recognition that Black students were not getting the same marks as their peers. So I was involved in trying to find out and questioning why this was the case. And having been a student at the same university myself, I was able to actually give an insight into my experience as a student at the university. And I've been able to get involved in mentoring other students and helping them navigate particularly difficulties on placement. I'm involved in decolonizing the curriculum in social work within my social work department. As I mentioned, my PhD research, because since joining BPS, I've actually intentionally added more talk about anti-racism, more readings and more citations relating to anti-racist work, but also I have intentionally chosen to, decolonize the curriculum in my own research by using other, workers and citing works that are not normally cited, just so as to amplify the work of, Black people and other people of color. I mentioned that I'm an FGM expert consultant for the rape crisis, where I deliver training to other professionals, but I particularly enjoy the training that I deliver to social workers, where I speak about cultural competence and how, despite social workers not knowing a great deal about FGM, by being culturally competent, they can ask the right questions and be able to protect those children who are at risk, but also effectively work with communities that practice FGM. I'm involved in the recruitment and interviewing of social work students at the university. Why I joined the BPS was I had a lot to say. I had a lot of information that I wanted to share with someone, and I needed an outlet. And when this opportunity came along, I decided to apply, and I was very, very, very happy to be selected as one of the people who could join, because I felt this was one way to actually effect change. I felt because BASW, is such an amazing organization, that this would lead to a change in policy and an amplification of voices that are normally not actually heard or amplified. I felt that by joining BPS, there would be some kind of work done and evidence that we have had a say, that we have spoken, and that, you know, change is possible. So it was a way, you know, for myself, but also to give hope to future, you know, students and as well as future social workers to see that things can change, and also to address some of the injustices that I was seeing in practice myself. So my proudest thing, or my proudest achievement within BPS has been the AAA Chinwag, which is really a reflection about allyship and, you know, practical ways in which people can get involved in embedding anti-racist practice. This is something that will be coming forward, but I was involved with other BPS members and allies to talk about anti-racist practice and how we can actually implement this, practical ways to do so. I have spoken about and shared anti-racist practice within team meetings and within management at my university and within the NHS. So the good thing about belonging to BPS is that I've been able to do so confidently. I have been able to forward presentations as well as readings to my dean at the university. I've been able to share resources with other people to ensure that, you know, everyone is becoming anti-racist. So I've also contributed to Outlanders, a very prestigious book that was authored and co-authored by Siobhan and Wayne, and this book is actually part of the reading list within my university. They've ordered several copies to go into the library. So these are some of my proudest achievements within the BPS.
Hello, my name's Marsha Hudson-Binns, and I'm a member of the Black and Ethnic Minority Professional Symposium, which is part of BASW. I've been a member of the group since the beginning. The call came from Wayne, and you know, it was something that interested me, excited me at the time, and I felt it was much needed as well, in terms of where we're at, maybe as a profession, and also where we're at societally as well. So I felt that the call came at the right time. It was definitely something that I can say that I was yearning for. And I think the events, of course, of last year, which, you know, were global, kind of was a catalyst for that as well. So I work for Kirklees Council. I'm currently a senior practitioner. I work for an emergency duty service, which entails a myriad of tasks, a myriad of things or crises that may come in that we have to deal with in any one night. I've been doing that now for Kirklees for the last 2 years, and before that was working for another authority doing the same role. But previous to that, I mean, I've been qualified now for 25 years, so since 1996, and throughout that time I have done approved social work training, best interest assessor training, also being a manager, a team manager at various authorities and in various teams, in a referral and response team, in child protection, and also in a transitions team for learning disabilities and children with disabilities. And also been an advanced practitioner. So over the many years that I've practiced, I've done a myriad of jobs really within that time. I've also been quite a strong advocate for mental health since the beginning of my career really, and particularly in relation to Black and ethnic minority mental health, and have been an educator and raised awareness in relation to training and delivering training around that. I've also been party to being a training and raising awareness around cultural diversity issues and anti-racist issues in the past, and also being part of kind of educating young or new social workers, student social workers, as a practice educator. All the roles I've enjoyed really, particularly being a practice educator. I think that's a sharing of experience. I never go into the kind of role with thinking that I know everything, because I learn a lot from that role and from the students as well, and from the developing profession and knowledge and research around social work in this ever-changing profession. Again, linking it back into the BPS role, I've just felt that in terms of, it was a much needed rallying cry, and in terms of all of my experience, it's felt as though it was definitely something that I was able to kind of contribute to. And also, you know, selfishly, I get a lot from being part of the group in terms of the wealth of experience from those people who are new into the profession, to those people who are at the middle of the profession in terms of the career, middle of the profession in terms of career, and also those people who have been long-standing social work as well. So there's an absolute wealth of experience and just kind of diversity and range of diversity in terms of what people are contributing to academically as well. So that is really something that I've kind of come to value as being a member of the group. In terms of just an aside from social work, I'm very much into, and always have been into, you know, health and well-being, and particularly in terms of social work and the practice of social work and other social workers. Because I think sometimes we give so much in relation to who we are, what we do as a profession. We're working with humans and human emotion, and I've always felt that, and also working in mental health as well, I've just always believed that it is about kind of taking time out for yourself, and whatever that may be, and just kind of making sure that you're centered with yourself, and make sure that you do whatever it takes to make sure that you invest in yourself, so that you are able to go out there and give to the people. This profession, we give our emotions, we absorb emotions, and we also give in relation to you know, sat at a laptop computer doing reports into the wee small hours. So I'm very much an advocate as well of kind of, you know, looking after yourself, being encouraged to look after yourself. Certainly when I was a manager, that was something that I kind of was very keen on in relation to the staff that I supervised, promoting that. And I certainly think that that's something that we should all hold dear where we can. I know lives are busy within work, lives are busy outside of work, and yeah, and also the resilience as well, and emotional stuff. I'm very much interested in that as well. I do things outside of social work. I'm very interested, and do work with silver and silversmithing and making silver jewellery and stone setting, and that's an ambition of mine, is to maybe take that forward by working with children, young people around that, and kind of maybe just sharing that craft with young people as well. I'd love to do that in relation to just building confidence and esteem, and kind of also you know, introducing a new skill, and what a dying skill, right, really dying art into with young people. In terms of being a member of this group, and my reasons for joining, again, there's a lot of overlap in terms of what I've said previously, but it was or is to make anti-racist practice a reality. And I think when I delivered cultural diversity, anti-racist training previously, the language has changed. Now, a lot of it was around the Macpherson report and the Stephen Lawrence outcome there. But language has changed, language moves on, and language informs perhaps how we understand things. So in terms of that and where we are today, and I think most people have an anchor now in terms of the George Floyd to kind of put something on and kind of be able to understand it more. I guess in relation to where we are now, it's not just about us educating, it's about kind of the allyship as well. So it's about a meeting in the middle, that's how I understand it, and also taking of responsibility. So although on the one hand, I was in a place before BPS where I just thought, you know, you can't challenge anything. You feel as though you can't challenge anything in relation to, you know, anti-racist practice, or if you did, you were vilified, and that might be strong language, but that's how it felt. It felt like, you know, you really had to choose your battles. I've been vehement in the past, and then, you know, recent years it was something where I just thought I just want to keep my head down and get on with stuff. Now it just feels as though actually we're having safe spaces to have conversations. So I think what this time, that's what it's created. And yes, there is still defensiveness, but I think that is kind of tempered with the language that we are using around anti-racist practice and making that a reality as well. And it's really brilliant that, you know, a lot of kind of local authorities and a lot of chief execs and assistant directors and kind of senior leadership teams are getting on board with this as well. So yeah, to be an agent for anti-racist change. So again, that's something that I believe since the beginning of my practice 25 years ago that I've always kind of been, and it's been reignited in relation to the whole recent, you know, event and the event of BPS as well. So definitely to be an agent of change, you know, to be instrumental in that change as well, whichever small part I can play. And certainly, again, it's not just about people, myself certainly, being sat down and being a victim. It's about kind of, like I said, those conversations, and courageous and comfortable conversations that we are now having once again, but we need to have, and we certainly need to keep on having them in this profession if it means that we need to kind of hammering the point home in relation to anti-racism in social work and beyond social work, to be honest. So to expose the prevalence of unconscious bias as well. To be part of reigniting the discussion around anti-racist practice, again, I've touched on that, and to be a vehicle for anti-racist discussion to become action. So all the points made there is really what I explained in the first point. They all kind of interlink with one another, and how can they not? But I guess it's just about deciphering what that kind of looks like on paper in terms of kind of making that point around that. So yeah, reasons for joining the group, it really is, again, I've felt that it's been really productive. There's been opportunities to, you know, get involved in writing articles, or even things where, you know, you've kind of maybe been thinking ideas that you might have been thinking of, you know, opportunities there to kind of really kind of drive those you know, ideas forward. And again, you know, raising awareness, educating, and having uncomfortable conversations as well. It really has kind of definitely reignited an energy with me in terms of where I am in my social work practice. There is overlap in terms of this slide and the bullet points there. Just going through that again, just to reiterate, a safe space to discuss being a Black social worker, a shared understanding of the themes of anti-racism, and an opportunity to share and gain knowledge and experience and ideas. And also, it's really good to share 2 hours of time on a Thursday each month with inspiring and committed social workers. I think that's been really, really energising and yeah, productive. So yeah, I've really kind of enjoyed being a member of this group.
Hello there, I'm Rachel Rook. I have been a registered social worker since 2004, and I am a member of the BASW Black Professionals Symposium. I did my DIPSWA, and then I moved over to work in children's services, but predominantly my experience has been in adult mental health. So I've been employed on community mental health teams, on associative outreach teams. I've also been a full-time duty officer within a community mental health team, and within that time attained my Stage 2 Practice Educator Award and my AMP qualification in 2010. And so I became a full-time AMP. I think I was a full-time AMP for about 2 years until I got, for want of a better word, bored with that role. And I suppose I say bored just because I missed being able to be a practice educator. So I then contacted universities just to see if they needed some off-site practice educators, and to cut a long story short, just in the process of that, I ended up attaining a teaching consultant post, which meant that I was lecturing half-time and practicing as an AMP half-time. So I did that for about a year, and then I successfully attained a full-time lecturer's post. So for the past 2 years, I've been a lecturer in the Department of Social Care and Social Work in a university in Greater Manchester. So in all the time that I was a full-time practicing social worker, I didn't really hear a lot of conversation about anti-racism, about anti-racist social work practice. There weren't a lot, if any, people of colour in senior roles in the local authority and the trust that I was connected to. So I pretty much spent a lot of the time just keeping my head down and, you know, just making sure that I didn't rock the boat too much. And it was only when I moved into lecturing that issues of anti-racism became more prominent, and that was really because I became aware of the awarding gap that exists across the whole higher education sector, which indicates that 13% students from Black and Asian or minority ethnic backgrounds are 13% less likely to get a first class honours degree or an upper second class honours degree than white students. So I looked into this quite a lot. This really bothered me, especially because obviously now we're in a time where students pay fees. And so I think if any of us were involved in an activity where we had to pay money or be in debt for something, knowing that actually the system seemed to be stacked against us just because of our skin colour, I don't think any of us would be too happy about that. And so that sort of, my interest into that sort of flowed into other areas. I became aware that Black social workers were overrepresented in fitness to practice hearings with the regulator, with the social work regulator. And of course, being an AMP, I was aware of the overrepresentation of Black people detained under the Mental Health Act. So obviously all of this knowledge was going on. What I was reading, what I was watching was influencing and increasing my learning. And as part of that, I became aware of the BPS group. And because I hadn't, possibly just because of the area that I'd always practiced in social work, you know, I didn't have a lot of Black colleagues. I didn't work with a lot of Black service users. So I thought it would be a good opportunity to be with other professionals who I could identify with, and hopefully who could identify with me. So in terms of the BPS, personally speaking, for me, it's just provided a space that I've never had before professionally, where I can just speak to other Black social workers, other Black and Asian social workers about their experiences in practice, just about ways of working, And so from a personal perspective, it's been really supportive and really inspiring as well. From a professional perspective, it's also been it's also helped me, I suppose, to address the issues that I've discussed in terms of the awarding gap. So, as part of what I noticed at the university is that there's definitely absolutely a sense of wanting to be anti-racist, but I think there was maybe a fixed way of thinking about the needs of Black people and Black students. And so because of that and because of what I'd noticed, I highlighted this, and there was a lot of support around what I'd highlighted about, the need, we don't need to just be teaching Black students about or teaching all students about, when we're talking about anti-racism, about the history of oppression, slavery. There are other aspects of Black people's existence which are really positive. And as much as everybody, I would say predominantly white students, because the majority of social workers are white, I think it is important to have an understanding of oppression, the history of oppression of people of colour. However, it's also important for students from minority ethnic groups to understand what's been achieved by academics and practitioners who are also people of colour. So it's about having that balance, really. And so that was really the focus of the point that I'd raised. And on the back of that, me raising that as a point, we developed a working group that I chair. The purpose of the working group was to review our teaching and resources in terms of how we were delivering content to all students, including students from minority and ethnic backgrounds. And so we were allocated extra hours for doing this, and it also formed part of the action plan that we were using to develop the department's equality, diversion and inclusion strategy. And so with support from the BPS, we were able to, well, we decided that what we wanted to do, actually, what was missing from our approach to teaching social work was student voice, the voice of students of colour. And so all students, actually, just in terms of how we're teaching about anti-racism, our students getting what they need to be prepared for social work practice. So we organised a conference, and we were able to have a member of the BPS do our keynote speech, which really resonated with a lot of the students. So I was actually very proud to be part of the BPS at that particular point, but also to, although as part of the BPS, I was able to kind of step away from it and see the impact that was having, the BPS was having on students. So that was really positive to be able to be a part of that and be able to organise that. So we did get student feedback during the conference. It was really some really poignant and interesting comments were made, which we're going to be using to inform the department's ED&I strategy. And that's ongoing. That's still a process. We're going to be finishing that off in the next few weeks. And so for me, really, the ongoing, now there just needs to be an ongoing effort to ensure that ED&I work remains a priority and that it's sort of consistent within the department. And that's going to be important for all departments within university, all departments within social work, but social work practice. But I think from the university's perspective, it's really, really important, given that we are a department of social care and social work. And I know that being part of the BPS keeps me motivated to remain motivated to do the work at at the university and vice versa. So it's having that sort of double effect and that double motivation for me. Also, aside from the conference, I was involved. I was on the panel for the AAA Chinwag that Wayne developed and organised, and that was a good opportunity again to learn about white allyship. So I suppose I've spoken about joining the BPS because that definitely provides a sense of a safe space and a sense of belonging. But you know, I definitely have that where I work. I definitely have that with my white friends, white colleagues, and so it was good to be able to have to be involved in the AAA Chinwag to speak about allyship in terms of you know, supported and being supported by people regard, you know, of the same intent. The same good intent to be anti-racist and to provide anti-racist social work, you know, regardless of our ethnicity. So that was a really positive piece of work. I would encourage you to watch the AAA Chinwag too. So really, that's me in a nutshell in terms of my role as a social worker. I'm still in practice, just not as much as an AMP. So again, the BPS is great for me. Having more proximity to practice than I do at the moment. But yeah, so that's me in a nutshell in terms of my employment and my membership of BPS. Thanks for watching.
So you've heard from our BPS members. Unfortunately, you've not been able to hear from all of them. It's a little bit like the Wu-Tang Clan. They are difficult to all get in the same room at the same time. But you've heard from the members that we were able to bring together for this showcase event. Like the Wu-Tang Clan, you've probably seen that all of the members that spoke have different styles, have different talents and skills and knowledge in their respective social work areas. I feel that when we come together as a group, we're able to amplify those many attributes and sharpen them. So I'm particularly proud of the group individually and collectively in all that they've achieved over the past year. I'd also like to share with you my own journey over the past year in terms of developing the group and the work that I've undertaken with them. So just to supplement what has been said, I will share with you my anti-racism in social work portfolio and just pick out a few sections that may be of interest. I have categorised the portfolio into position statements from BASW around various issues in relation to anti-racism in social work, but also anti-discrimination and anti-oppression. There are also various articles that I've published with community care, working class academics, diverse educators, a local publication in my native Sheffield called Now Then magazine, Social Work News, Professional Social Work magazine, of course, and I'm very pleased by the level of engagement from different media outlets within social work. You'll see that I also have the honour of having my work published in Kahinde Andrews' media house called Make It Plain. So there is a number of articles there which you can view online at the Working Class Academics website if you've not already seen some of this work. There's the KCMG campaign that myself and BASW led on last year. There's a number of collaborations, the BPS group, of course, and also Outlanders, where I collaborated with Siobhan McLean. Also School of Shabs, you've heard from Shabnam Ahmed, who is a member of the BPS group, and her School of Shabs YouTube channel. There's some poetry that I've dabbled in, a range of webinars. Again, all of these are available online via these web links. You can view an online version of this portfolio on the Working Class Academics website. So various webinars there, including Tavistock and Portman, Liverpool Hope University, the National IRO Managers, University of Derby, Think Ahead, What Works Centre, and most recently with Des Holmes from Research in Practice. There's also a range of podcasts available, notably with David Niven, with Yohai Hakak, Social Matters podcast, Brunch and Bantu, the Frontline podcast, and also with Des Holmes at Research in Practice. Here is a range of miscellaneous activities that I've been involved in, just to give you a flavour. With regards to my career progression and my journey or pathway into social work, I do explain that in the book Outlanders, Hidden Narratives from Social Workers of Colour, in a story called Ambition Navigation. So I'd encourage you to have a look at that if you haven't already. But this event is very much about the Black and Ethnic Minority Professional Symposium. And I think all of the plaudits have to go to members of this group for all of their efforts and the time, effort and energy that they've put into this group over the past year. All of them do this work voluntarily. They're all BASW members. And as you will already realise from their presentations, they're all very busy in the different parts of the country in which they reside professionally as social workers. So I really want to extend a really hearty thank you to all of the group and everything that they do. Being the founder of the group, I am quite protective of it, and it is a little bit like my baby. BASW England are very supportive of this group, and I have to extend my thanks also to Maris Stratulis and the rest of the BASW England team for being supportive of this vision and this project, and now the formulation of this established group within BASW England. The BPS will continue to strive to demonstrate Black excellence, professionalism and unity. I'd also like to acknowledge and recognise the contributions and efforts of the group members who were unable to join us for these presentations, and they are Patrice Bentic, Diana Oniyango, Sharon Davidson, Veronica Bell, and Coyote Alabai. I'd also like to say a special thanks to our compere for today, Claudia Crawley, for comparing this event and for agreeing to showcase the work of the BPS today. So over to you, Claudia.
Hello. Can I just apologise first of all that we've run over a little bit, and it's now actually 3 o'clock. Well, got 1 minute before we go, and I know that some of you, being very busy social workers, it's likely that you might have to leave, but if you can stay, we can still do the question and answer section. And for those who have to go, you can actually view the video on the BASW YouTube channel. Okay, so for those of you who are able to stay, this is your opportunity to put questions in the chat, and Wayne and those members of the BPS who are still here will answer. So questions, please. You put them in the chat. Thanks for your feedback, people who are leaving it as you go. Thank you. Any questions?
Claudia, just to mention, I am enabling the cameras and the mics.
Can't hear you, Wayne.
Can you not hear me?
Can
you hear me now?
Yeah, that's better. Yeah.
Slight technical hitch, forgive me. I was just saying I've enabled the mics and cameras for members of the BPS. I can see Shabs has just joined. Yeah. I'm just going through, do that in the background.
Not getting any questions. Any questions, anyone? This is your opportunity to speak directly to members of the BPS. You don't want to miss it. You're not going to get another opportunity soon. So come on, questions. What would you like to know? They're here waiting to answer. Pick their brain.
Let's have the mics unmuted for the BPS members, please. They could say a little hello. You know, let's get them warmed up for a little Q&A. So come on, folks. Here's your chance to speak to members of the group.
Hi, everyone. Hi.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
I've got one question, actually. I know that social work is a female-dominated profession, but how come we haven't got more men as BPS members? Does anyone know? Maybe Wayne, you can answer that, or maybe you don't know.
Well, a personal view that I have about that is that I think, sadly, it's probably seen as a sort of stereotypically, it's probably seen as a female profession, maybe, but wrongly, because obviously, you know, social workers work with, you know, a cross section of society. So yeah, I think there's more that could be done, maybe from a PR perspective in terms of promoting the role and, you know, kind of the attributes that men bring to the role as well.
But there are male social workers. I've seen them.
Oh yeah, we're few and far between.
Yeah. How about seeing if you can get a few more into the BPS?
That would be nice. Yeah. As I said before, you know.
Tried, yeah.
Yeah, we have tried. We did do a sort of mini campaign, and we have Imtiaz, who's a valued member of the group, and Coyote. I think Imtiaz had to leave earlier, but you know, we have Coyote as well, and sadly the other male we had to leave the group as well. But you know, we're continually reviewing the kind of membership of the group. But I think everyone will probably agree that we've got a fairly harmonious group as well. So you know, I think we're all kind of individually and collectively a bit protective of that as well, and maintaining, you know, what up to now has been a very successful group. But anyway, I'm talking too much. Come on, people.
You sound, Wayne, you just sounded as if you get men in, they're going to be disruptive and cause trouble. They're not all troublemakers, you know.
Not trouble. I'm just thinking of, you know, sort of group dynamics, storming, norming, all that stuff. But yeah, what about Pauline? Pauline is our chair of the group. Anything you'd like to say, Pauline?
Yeah, thanks, Wayne. I'm sorry I missed the first bit. I really didn't want to miss this session. But as I'm sure, you know, and I was saying to Wayne in the background, Wayne, I have to get from one building to the next, and I had to time it. And I just came in when my presentation was on, and I said, thank God I didn't see myself on the camera. But you know, I've listened to everybody's presentations, and I'm feeling very proud of us as a group. And I know when we meet and we talk, but when I heard the presentations again, I thought, wow, you know, as Wayne has said before, we each bring so much. And for a lot of you, I knew what you did, but I heard new things today. And I'm really proud of us all. I can imagine, you know, the experiences that we are still encountering. I know, you know, well, I'll talk for myself. And at this stage of my career, I'm really grappling now with, is it time for me to step away from social work and do my own thing? But as part of that, I know my own thing still will involve the work and the involvement that I want to have with BASW, because social work is important to me. I've spent 20 odd years in the profession, and I can see new people coming in, you know, and I've got something to give, I've got something to offer. I'm a Black female, and I matter, and we matter.
Yeah.
And that's why I will continue to be part of the BPS as long as Wayne and BASW will have me, you know. But well done, everyone.
Yeah, got a couple of questions. Thanks for that, Pauline. I hope you do stick around, yeah? Got a couple of questions. One from Pauline who says, is there any support for ethnic minority social workers who've just immigrated to the UK as we can't join the ASYE profession? Sorry, the ASYE programme for support. Anyone got something to say about that? Jackie?
Yeah, I've just put in, if they email me, I can ask in our local authority, because we've just had 30 international students join us, so I can see what support we've put in around those students and if there's anything nationally.
Okay, thanks, Jackie. You got there before I did.
Okay. And I'm just wondering. Sorry, I should have put my hand up.
Well,
you know about this. Can you hear me? You know, who is it? Kay Ling. So she's saying she cannot join the ASYE program for support. I'm just wondering. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but the questions I'm asking is why is that, and for how long for? So I've got quite a few questions around that, so it's good that Jackie, you say you can look into it, and I'll probably touch base with you because that's an interesting question, which I hadn't thought was happening.
Okay, thanks, Pauline. Sarah speaking said, I'm reflecting on this session and find myself thinking, have I been in denial of how lonely I felt in the profession? That's an interesting comment, isn't it? It is a lonely profession, isn't it? You're out there doing the work by yourself, and okay, maybe you've got a supervisor, but they're not there with you, are they? With all the autonomy and all the intensity of it all. It's easy to forget that social work is quite a lonely profession. Support is so essential to keeping you going. And I think as Black and ethnic minority social workers as well, that's kind of amplified, isn't it? Because there's all the extra, the microaggression that we face, often on a daily basis. Yeah, it can feel like a very lonely place. Anyone want to comment on that?
Claudia, I can see Shabnam's got her hand up. Also, we've had Edward with his hand up for some time. I could actually bring Edward in as well, you know, with his audio, but you know, in whichever order you prefer, Claudia.
Yeah, well, Shabnam, you've had your hand up.
Thank you. Yes, I was just, as you said, that's quite a you know, a comment around loneliness in the profession, and I'm not making any assumptions about what background you're from, but in terms of what I would say is definitely reach out, you know, expand your community and practice, because that's one of the things that I've found that's helped me to navigate that loneliness, and navigate that, you know, sometimes if you're sharing things and you're being brave and courageous, you're met with silence often, and then you're left feeling, oh God, am I the only one speaking out? Am I the troublemaker? Am I the aggressive one? You know, am I the one that's always creating problems? You become a bit of the thorn for people amongst the roses. And so reaching out, like, so this group is a real strong community of practice for me, but I reach out to various other people through Twitter, through social media, and just even in my organizations, having what I'm diarying in regular connect and reflect with people from different teams, and looking out for those safe spaces, because what we need more than ever is spaces that are responsive and restorative for our needs. And I find that I look out for those spaces and I make time for those spaces. So I would really encourage you to do that.
Thank you, Shabnam. There's somebody called, I can't see the name, looks like Edward with a hand up, and also Sarah that had their hand up as well. Oh, are they able to speak? They can unmute themselves, Wayne.
Yeah, I've just enabled that.
Okay.
Hi everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi. So I'm Ed. I'm a children's social worker in Lincolnshire, and just really to say that, you know, it was wonderful to listen to all the presentations. Thank you all for sharing that. And just to say that, you know, the realities in Lincolnshire are, you know, prejudice is real, and I've seen it and I've challenged it, and it very much needs to be a priority across the board, you know, particularly in our authority, which was silent last year when everything happened, you know. So I'm part of the local authority's staff support group for Black and ethnic minority and allies, and so I consider myself a bit of an ally, you know. Sorry if my voice is breaking a bit, it's just I feel quite strongly about these issues, you know. So, and I think the other thing I always say is, thanks to Wayne, his emails provide so many resources. It's really, you know, that's great. And I do try and push things on in my team. I have spoken to them about the issues, and I really hope that, you know, change does come everywhere, and in Lincolnshire in particular, because it is needed, you know. So thanks everyone. Yeah, that's just what I wanted to say.
Thanks very much.
Edward, Ed?
Sorry?
Are you a member of an allies group?
Yes, I am, yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
Because you'll need support with that as well, as you probably found out anyway. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for your input, Ed. Appreciate that. I think it's Sarah who had her hand up. Sarah, are you there? Or is it? No, I don't know who it is. Somebody got their hand up, but okay, there's someone called Diane who's left a message for Pauline. She said, very interesting platform, thought-provoking. I need to think about the next phase of PE, of where I'm going with all the pending changes in the LA that I work in. 26 years in the field with nearly 10 years as a locum. I'd be interested to talk to Pauline if possible. So, not sure.
What do I do? Put my contact details in the chat?
Yes, if you're happy to share that, or the alternative on LinkedIn, Pauline.
Oh, don't talk about it. I am, but I'm having issues at the moment.
Okay. Well,
so I put my
share about your contact details, and if you're okay with more people than Diane seeing that, then that's probably the best way.
I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Or they can come via me, just to make that point as well. You know, people usually got my email address, so I can link you up if need be. There is somebody called Samaya with their hand up, Claudia. I don't know if you've seen. No. Yeah. So yeah, and I have enabled mic and camera.
Okay.
Hello.
Hiya.
Hello.
Put your camera on. Be nice to see you.
Oh, hang on.
Hey, where are you? I could see a blank wall. Oh, there you go. Hi, Samaya.
Hello. My name's Samaya. I'm a conference chair, and I've been a social worker since 1995 when I graduated, so a bit of a while. I've been a conference chair and an IRO since I think about 2008. The only thing that I wanted to say is these forums, they're great. And the local authority that I work in, I've been there for nearly 4 years and only found out about the Black Workers Group like 2 weeks ago, which is interesting. But we are about the business of race, diversity and racism. But the thing that is really being left off is the whole problem of what we call internalized racism. So there's a lot of black on black attacks, and how do we address that? Because you've got layers of racism, then you've got this layer for me of the whole business of being a woman, then you've got another layer of being a Muslim. Oh, you can't do this, that, the other, so who told you? And then on top of that, you've got the layer of you're actually from Jamaica. Then you've got the layer of because my parents are Jamaican and live there, and I'm converted to Islam. I'm like, well, how did that happen? So you've got to deal with people and their whatever it is where that's concerned. It's just layers and layers. And I sit in my authority and I watch the worst kind of attacks being perpetrated. It's almost as though black people are weaponized against
our own people, and it distresses me so much. And the people that are weaponized, you never see them in a forum like this for obvious reasons. But I'm speaking to colleagues that are really going through it, and they don't understand why a black person would do this to another person when you can see this white hierarchy management structure is at the top of it. And I've challenged it, and I've said to somebody, I said, you loaded the gun and you gave it to them to fire at me, and don't you think I don't know it? And that person went, they were horrified that I'd actually worked it out. But they need to understand that I know enough about myself. My parents are Jamaican and gone back to Jamaica. I know my black history, and I know how some of this stuff works. So I think maybe we need a little bit more work in that respect. It's great to support each other, but people being weaponized, it's sort of like this sort of like Willie Lynch type thing going on, where people are literally destroying their own. That I find it really hard to reconcile, and it's caused no end of splits and divisions where I work, and there is no union or unity. It's very much segregation, and there's time I feel alone, but because I stand up and I challenge, even other Muslims are terrified to even be seen speaking to me. But there's some things you just can't let go, and you have to call it out. The loss of George Floyd, it gives you a platform, because I'm like, look, I'm just telling you straight, Black Lives Matter. We're not taking this anymore. We're not colluding with this anymore. We're not going to go home and feel tired and depressed about it while you go home and get on with your life. This is so finished. It's over. But people don't want to be around people that are able to say that. I've been in social work a long time. I've seen so much, and I'm so tired. I'm really tired of it. But I was really pleased to see and hear the presentations, the new workers coming up, and the portfolios, the profiles of people, really good, really nice, and very awe-inspiring in a profession that has not been kind to us for way too long.
Okay, thank you, Samaya. I mean, you're raising a very important point about internalised racism. I think one of the things we do need to bear in mind, and that's all of us, is that there isn't a nation, there isn't a group of people where there is no conflict within that group. Yeah, so we aren't any different really from the rest of the world. What would be nice is if we were much more united, but that's not the case with human beings. There's always going to be conflict, and that's not to say that we shouldn't be doing something about internalised racism. Absolutely think we should, but I just think we need to see it in perspective sometimes, rather than, but you know, people talk about black on black crime. There is white on white crime as well. We never hear about that. We see it, but we don't call it white on white crime, but it happens all the time. Yeah, and it's something we do need to think about. Yeah, but see it in perspective. I think we're out of time now, 3:20. We've run way over. If there anyone who's got any other question, I'm sorry we weren't able to get to them. And can I say a huge thank you to those people who did bring their questions, and people like Sumaya who were, you know, actually able to, who had the courage to stand up and say what she wanted to say. And can I also thank members of the BPS who are here now, and the ones who weren't able to join this particular Q&A, but who did their presentation. I take my hat off to you guys. You're a courageous, you're my type of anti-racist activist, the ones who are out there actually taking action, doing things. They're not sitting on their bums talking about it. Action is what we need, and you're absolutely doing it. So thank you so much for that. And thank you to Wayne for initiating this and actually going ahead and setting it up, and for taking a chance on me, actually asking me to compare this event when I thought, you know, lockdown and all that. I haven't been on stage since February 2020 and didn't know if I could do it online like this when there's no canned laughter. But thank you, Wayne, and thank you for all their encouragement. And let's have a few more of these events. It'd be brilliant.